Yes, yes, the Casanovians. Yes, yes, the Casanovians. Alright, boys, another beautiful day in Bangkok, and I wanted to dedicate this live stream to talk to you boys about some really interesting discussions that we had on yesterday's Entourage group coaching call. So, if you don't know what the Entourage is my inner circle, okay? It's my private community for my private coaching clients, and usually it's every Sunday, but we had the call on Monday this week. Typically, every Sunday we have a group coaching call where we get all of our guys together, guys in different continents all across the world, cold approaching across multiple cities, and we all get together for weekly masterminds. We discuss our wins, we discuss the things that we're struggling with, and we get advice, we get feedback, and we get to celebrate each other. I find it's an amazing way to kick off the week. Like, we start the week on this high frequency state where we get to help each other out, and we understand a rising tide lifts all the boats. So whilst the Entourage is closed, I actually wanted to dedicate today's live stream to give you boys some secret insider knowledge, things that were discussed on yesterday's call that I think are really going to help you if you're a guy who has just got started with daytime cold approach, or maybe you have been going out there, you have been taking action, maybe you've noticed that your progress has started to plateau, or maybe you're just looking for some daily motivation to have the best week of your life. I want to distill some really important insights that I genuinely hope are going to have a seismic impact on your life going forward. So the first thing that I wanted to share is probably the most crucial, and it's the understanding that good game is just about being honest. Okay? Good game is simply just being honest. I think it's so easy in this space to get bombarded by theory. Like, you've got so many different people giving you so many different interpretations of what it takes to be a quote-unquote attractive, fuckable, seductive individual. And really, the more I've studied this space, the more I've gone deep on understanding the mind, identity, female attraction triggers. I understand now that honesty is the ultimate aphrodisiac. Good game is simply about being honest. And this is why I say to you boys, to really hit that top tier level where you can you can see women, you can experience success in advance, you're not getting in your own way. If you're dating a woman, you're not in this constant mental battle with yourself, second guessing yourself, thinking, am I doing things right? Was that the right move? Did I say the right thing? Do I need to push? Do I need to pull? Vibes stack. Oh, has she hooked yet? Am I being high value enough right now? All of this incessant mental chatter is castrating you of your confidence. And the way that I like to distill it in my own mind and when I'm coaching my guys is this simply comes down to radical honesty, okay? So it doesn't get much more radically honest than what we're doing when we're going out there and direct cold approaching, okay? We are removing the facade. We're removing any pretense. We are going over to those women like the glitches inside the Matrix, and we're declaring our desire in a non-needy way. And this notion of radical honesty is all that you actually need. So if you see a woman and you want to compliment her, if you find her attractive, say it. If you're on a date with a woman and you want to take her back to your place, you don't need to hide behind these childish excuses like, hey, do you want to go back to my place and watch a movie? Oh, my phone needs charging, you should come back to mine. It's, hey, let's go back to mine. Why are we going back to yours? And you can just have a smirk on your face like, shut up. You know exactly why we're going back to mine. I find that this is the best way to play the game. It's just coming from this place of radical honesty. Because as we were speaking on the call yesterday, and I've been doing a lot of studying of the book Reality Transurfing. I keep talking about it to my guys inside the Entourage. Many of the guys have actually bought the book now, so it's like an 800-page manual. I honestly think it's one of the best books ever written. It's not just about internal state, it's everything. if you actually study and incorporate the teachings of that book, it'll help you live a more abundant dating life. It'll help you make more money. It'll help you become more socially magnetic. And one of the core principles of reality transurfing is diminishing the excess importance that we place onto things. So typically when guys are going out there and cold approaching, and this doesn't just apply to beginners, it goes across the spectrum from guys who even consider themselves seasoned players, or if you're someone who's done more than 100 direct cold approaches, I guarantee you're still in this energetic pendulum of placing too much importance on how the woman perceives you, okay? When we place excess importance onto something, it creates an emotional imbalance, and that emotional imbalance puts us into a state of lack. And then typically we approach those women from a place of lack as opposed to a place of wholeness, and we need something from her, whether it's a phone number, whether it's a date, whether it's a smile. We need something from her to feel complete, and this is not the optimal way to approach. If you actually want to have an abundant dating life, it comes down to diminishing the amount of importance that you're placing onto things. So when it comes to cold approach, one of our guys inside the Entourage, he was doing some shop approaches at the weekend, and he hadn't really experimented with shop approaches before. And he saw a girl in the shop, and the language that he was using was already putting him into a state of lack, and he actually wasn't aware of it. So he was in the shop, and there was a woman that he felt an obligation to talk to her, I think because he felt as though he needs to prove something to himself. Like, and the words that he used was, I need to approach this woman, right? I need to approach this woman. So he's in a shop, he sees a woman, but the approach is being fueled by an obligation as opposed to a genuine desire. Whenever you feel as though you need to do something and you're operating against the flow of life, those actions that you take are rarely beneficial for you or for the girl as well, because she feels what you feel. She can feel it if you're not really in the approach, if you're just doing the approach for the sake of it, because you feel obligated, maybe to prove something to yourself, maybe to silence your ego. So whenever you find yourself in that place of obligation, where you feel as though you need to do something to maybe prove something to yourself, maybe prove something to your wing, you need to actually start to question why you feel that way. And it's okay sometimes to actually just not do that approach. If that approach is coming from the wrong place, if you feel as though you need something from that person, it's actually a good idea not to do that approach. Recalibrate. And on the call yesterday as well, we spoke about the importance of focusing on quality over quantity, because a really nuanced insight is the thing that gets you from a 0 to a 1 is not the same thing that's going to get you from a 1 to a 4. So when you're first at the start of your cold approach journey, you're just putting reps in, right? Ideally, 100 direct cold approaches. That's what it takes to get you from a 0 to a 1, right? 100 direct cold approaches. You are focusing on volume. You are focusing on reps. Maybe some of those approaches are coming from a place of obligation because you just want to get them out of the way. That's fine. But then the thing that gets you from a 0 to a 1 isn't the thing that's going to get you from a 1 to a 4 or a 4 to an 8. Once you've done those first 100, you actually want to start focusing more on the quality as opposed to the quantity. And this is where guys can get stuck, because they learn cold approach and then they become cold approachers, right? One of my mindsets is learn day game, don't become a day gamer. So you have your immersion period, you go hard with the skill set, you get those 100 direct cold approaches out the way, but then it's about integrating the skill into your life so you can then approach on autopilot. And probably the most important lesson is you focus your attention on the women that you actually want to approach. I find that guys have got this strange desire to always want to be making things super difficult for themselves. It's like, oh, Kristian, how do I approach this girl who stood outside of a shop and there's loads of people around and she looks like she's waiting for a boyfriend, and then a guy just came over, I think he might be the boyfriend. How do I approach this girl? You don't. You're like, this doesn't need to be a difficult discipline, right? One of the principles in reality transurfing is learning how to actually go with the flow. Choosing the path of least resistance is the best way to practice the skill. So once you've done your first 100 direct call approaches, you want to be switching from quantity to quality and really focusing your attention on the women that you actually want to talk to, okay? So when you're first starting, you are being more of a shotgun, right? You're just spraying, you're just going, putting yourself into so many approaches, having a multitude of experiences, and that's fine. But eventually, after you've done those first 100, we want to be transitioning from a shotgun to a sniper and really prioritizing our attention to the women that we really like. Efrem, who I worked with in Warsaw last year, is a perfect example of this. He worked with me in Warsaw last year. He did well over 100 direct call approaches with me in Warsaw, so he got his volume in. And then when he went back home to San Francisco, he integrated the skill into his life. So he was approaching on autopilot, he was getting dates on demand, but he wasn't approaching anywhere near the same volume that he was doing with me in Warsaw. And this is how I believe the game is played. You have your immersion, you go hard, and then you focus your attention on the women who actually appeal to you. Because some women, you will just feel that biological tug to go and approach. But the issue is with guys is they get so used to doing lots of volume that they almost forget why they actually got started with this in the first place. Because if you understand, realistically, to live an abundant dating life, you actually just need one. You actually only need one incredible, wife-worthy woman to think that you're fucking excellent and you've cracked the dating game. And I think a lot of guys think, because they've been brainwashed by the brain dead into thinking they should want to want what other people have told them they should want to want, that living an abundant dating life is just about sleeping with as many women as possible. Oh, get more notches on your bedpost. It's all about chasing the next one, the next one, the next one. And I'm not saying don't go through that period. I think it's good to get that out of your system, but I think it's so important to just reflect on what you actually want. Because what I found to be true is most of the guys who I work with, when we strip back all the bullshit, they just want to be wanted. They just want one wife-worthy woman that they can do life with and who appreciates them, not for what they have, but for who they are. So if you understand that you actually only need one woman to think that you are incredible, it makes call approach so much easier because you're no longer trying to be universally attractive. You're not trying to be everything to everybody. You're just trying to be a something for the right somebody. And that can take a lot of mental pressure off of you once you've done those first 100 approaches, because then you recognize you can be more selective with the women you decide to invest your energy into, because it takes energy, right? Like when you're going out there and you're approaching, it takes energy. So you don't want to be wasting your time on women that you feel, she's okay, I've not done the approach in a couple of weeks, maybe I'll go over and talk to her. She can feel that disingenuine energy radiating from you. So once you've got those first 100 out the way, I want you to start focusing on being more of the sniper. So really focusing your energy on the women who speak to you on a biological level. And that might mean some days you go out with the intention of approaching, but you don't actually approach anybody because you don't find any of those women to be worthy enough to invest your energy into. Now, of course, you don't want to turn this into a coping strategy where you go out and you do see women who speak to your soul and you don't go over to them and you're like, nah, she's not really what I'm looking for. So, you know, I can't give you all the answers here. You have to be honest with yourself. But good game, for me, it does just come down to being honest. Radical honesty. Hey, I'm a man, you're a woman, and I like that. Being able to present yourself as you are, as opposed to how you want the world to see you. This is a big one, and I could probably talk about this topic for hours on end. When I hear guys speak, guys who I work with, or I watch piece of content online, or sometimes I go into other people's videos and I read the comments to get a better insight into what guys are struggling with. And I think with all of us, we get started on this journey because we've hit our rock bottom, right? We're just at that rock bottom place where we know that something needs to change. We're sick of settling for mediocrity. We know we've got music to share. We're just pissed off, yeah? We're just pissed off at our situation and we desperately want to change something. So then we try out all of these different identities and characters. Like, we might put on the mask of trying to be the bad boy, or we try and be the James Bond, or we try and be more suave and cool and pretend that we've got it all figured out. And we try on all of these different masks. And what I've found to be true, and this is why I use the mantra freedom from bullshit, eventually you come out the other side and you actually just stop caring. And I think good game is when you stop caring. You become powerful when you stop caring. So everybody's operating on their own timeline. And I remember I was going through a period in my life a couple of years back where I was desperately trying so hard to be perceived as this hyper fuckable, high value man who had no flaws. And I tried that mask out, and I realized eventually the mask is going to slip. Eventually she's going to realize you're not the suave, cool James Bond archetype that you portrayed during that 5-minute sales pitch. And this is why, if you can understand what I'm saying here, this is, for me, the Shangri-La of everything, because you're no longer dependent on state. You're no longer dependent on the way that you feel. It's just this constant understanding of being connected to your pure, unfiltered authenticity. And if people don't like you, fuck them. They were never your people anyway. So it doesn't mean be lazy. Yeah, it's not giving you license to be lazy. It's giving you permission to be free. It's understanding the kingdom of God is already inside of you. And I think from what I notice with the guys who I work with, there is this incessant pedestalization of the feminine. Like, the reason why you want to be portrayed as a bad boy or James Bond or fucking Tommy Shelby is because you've got this deep desire to need love from the feminine, right? It's all coming from a place of fear. Oh, I'm going to pretend to be the bad boy. I'm going to pretend to be the stone cold alpha giga player. And it's all coming from a place of fear. And I know this because I tried to do this for years. I constantly tried to present myself as something that I wasn't. And it led to very empty relationships with people who got attracted to the idea of me rather than the person I actually was. Like, I'm as insecure as anybody else. I've got my fears. I've got my doubts. I have days and moments where I really don't like myself. I have moments where I feel super inadequate. I have moments where I can find myself slipping back into old thought patterns and comparing myself to other people and thinking that I'm not enough in whatever avenue, fitness, fashion, finances. And I have to catch myself sometimes, and I have to remind myself that honesty, being able to operate from this place of honesty, to not need anything from anybody. And honestly, doing these live streams this year, it's been massive for me. I remember I first started doing these live streams in Cyprus, and that was the first time that I openly declared to the world, hey, by the way, I used to be addicted to porn. I used to have difficulty getting erections with new women. I used to have erectile dysfunction. And the first times I started doing that, it made me viciously uncomfortable. I really didn't like it. It felt as though I was letting the world into the deepest depths of my soul. But by leading from that place of radical honesty, by being completely at ease with whatever people thought of me, and recognizing that in the grand scheme of things, no one actually gives a flying fuck about me anyway, right? We suffer more in imagination than in reality. But the more radically honest that I've been in my life, I eventually got to this place where I'm like, there's nothing anybody can say or do which is actually going to hurt me anymore, right? Because once you understand that this whole game that we're playing, it is a game of interpretation. Everything is inherently neutral, right? If somebody says something and it upsets you, you've decided to get upset by that. You've decided to get triggered by that. Everything is inherently neutral. We decide to attach interpretation to it. If you go over to a girl today and she completely blanks you, you can decide to get pissed off, or you can decide to interpret that as, okay, she just wasn't my girl. It's all about interpretation. If you actually start studying reality transurfing, most of the answers to the current problems that you're facing can be found in the pages of that book. It's this notion of excess importance. The more importance you attach to something, the more you're going to get yourself into this mental battle. So, good game is just being honest. The more you can practice being honest with people, the better your life is going to be overall. That's what I found anyway. And this is not just something that you switch on in a dating context. It's teaching yourself to be more radically honest throughout your entire life. So maybe your friends invite you to something at the weekend and you don't want to go. And historically, you've usually came up with convenient excuses as to why you can't go to that thing. You can just say, no, I don't want to go. You don't even need to... Sorry. There's a JCB going past, apologies. You don't even need to justify yourself. You don't want to go, fine, just say it. You don't need to provide a justification, right? It's these low frequency states of guilt and shame and fear. And that's why this game, I believe, is 93% in a game. Yeah, it's getting ourselves into this high frequency state. I talk about how to do this. If you download my free course, I'll link it in the comments. It's called my Most Fuckable Man course. In that course, I go super deep in the module titled Mindset Mastery on how to rewire your entire internal belief system. All my courses are free. All right, so you can download my Most Fuckable Man course. You can also download Conversation Killer as well, which gives you the entire cold approach playbook. It's a really meaty course. It's really good. I would recommend that you download it. But this notion of excess importance, whenever you feel anxious, look where you're placing importance. So if it's on the approach, for example, usually it's because you're placing far too much emphasis on how this woman is going to perceive you. Usually you're placing way too much importance on what other people are going to think of you. Oh, what if this person sees what I'm doing? And you're living your life like a closet heterosexual. And as soon as you recognize the world does not care about you, as soon as you recognize in 100 years' time, none of this is going to matter, as soon as you realize it's you versus you, you can start to diminish the importance that you place on things. But ultimately, it's a process, yeah? It's not an overnight fix. I've been at this for the best part of 15 years now. So be kind to yourself and really celebrate those wins along the way, right? Celebrate every win, like you've just won $1 million. If you went out today and you did an approach, and even if it was objectively shit, celebrate that. Maybe you got your first date from daytime call approach. And maybe the girl flaked. Oh well, you still got a number. You still had a date lined up. Congratulations. Maybe you went on a date and the date didn't go that well. Celebrate it anyway. You still created something out of nothing. Like, with cold approach especially, there's always a new reason to get pissed off, right? First of all, you're pissed off because you can't approach. Then you can approach. Then you're pissed off because you can't have long conversations. Then you can have long conversations. Then you get pissed off because you can't go for phone numbers. Then you can get phone numbers. Then you start getting phone numbers. And then the phone numbers flake. Then the phone numbers stop flaking. Then you start getting dates. And then you go on the dates, but the dates are shit because you haven't been practicing dating that much. And then you can date. And then you get pissed off. Then you get pissed off because you can't pull the girl back. And then it just continues, it just goes on and on and on. But if you can just celebrate your wins, if you can really learn to view all the reps as the rewards, and you take immense pleasure in the pursuit, and you stop placing so much importance onto getting certain things, that's how you actually get into this place of wholeness. And that's how you win the game. It's when you don't need anything from anybody anymore. It's when you have full faith that everything that you want is on its way to you. You just need to take the right actions each day, and you do the actions because it makes you feel good as a man to do it. Going to the gym, doing your approaches, making pieces of content. You do these things because you want your actions to align with your ambitions. Yeah, so you've got a clear idea of who you are, of what you want, and then you take the actions every single day to get you there. With full detachment to any outcome, right? You'll get it when your time is ready. So those were some insights from yesterday's call. If you would like to join our private community, the Entourage, there's a link below. We're not taking on any new members until early 2025, but you can reserve a spot on our wait list. I'll link my free course in the comments as well, so you can download those. And I really hope that this has been useful for you boys. So yeah, boys, listen, I love you all very much. Drop the live stream a like, consider subscribing. I'll talk with you boys again tomorrow. All right. Mwah.